another edition of HACtv Pilot Showcase. Today we have a really special guest. I call him one of the community champions because he is so helpful and so supportive of our RC helicopter community. Everybody show your love and make some noise for Dr. Ben Miner. Hello, Dr. Ben Miner. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. Well, let's just get right into it. So, Ben, you've been doing this for a long time. How long have you been in this RC helicopter hobby?
So I started radio control in 1981 when I was about 13 years old, or maybe just ready to turn 13. And I started flying helicopters in 1986. I guess I was about a senior in high school. So however many, over 30 whatever years or whatever that is.
So 1986, I mean, geez, what was that first helicopter? What was that you flew?
First helicopter was a fixed pitch called Baron 20. In the United States, it was called a Baron 28.
A Baron 28, fixed pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure it was nitro motor, correct?
Nitro.
Yeah,
that was a 20 size, 28, 30 size model.
Okay, cool. Did you have to build that from kit, or was it?
It was a kit.
Yeah,
there was nothing. That predated by several years or more when GMP first did the shuttle. They're ready to fly shuttle, like almost ready to fly shuttle. So everything, you had to build everything.
Gotcha. So for me, I mean, I kind of started maybe 25 plus years ago, and it was very short-lived. I started RC helicopters. I got into it really. I even helped a buddy of mine at Hobby Shop. Folks would buy kits. The Horobo shuttle was what he primarily focused on. I would build them, set them up, and send them off. Give a few hover lessons, and that was about it. But for me, I got out of it. I guess I was in it for about 8 months. So it died down for me. Fast forward 25 years later, I got back into the hobby. So I've been doing it about 2 years. But getting back into it, just basic learning how to hover really got to me. Like, holy cow, I remember this, but I kind of forgot a little bit. So what was it like in the beginning for you when you were learning how to fly helicopters? What routines did you do to help you learn, orientations and all that? Did we have a best practices back there, a standardized set of patterns people would fly to learn orientations when you first started?
Well, I came along, gyros, we did have gyros. I flew it initially just for a very short period of time without one, which was about as much as an adventure as you can imagine it was. But the very first traditional rate gyros with electromechanical, nothing solid state or anything as far as like we have today. So that made things a little better. Weren't any flight simulators, so you had training gear. So you had basically whipple balls and dowels, which worked pretty well. And then after that, it was just skidding around on a high school playground because it was smooth, because it didn't have grass on it. I didn't have a set routine per se that I did. First of all, you were just trying to learn how to hover tail in, then side in, then nose in, and then lazy figure eights to gradually get into forward flight. I guess it was methodical because you had to learn how to do one thing sort of before you learned how to do the other, but I didn't have a set program that I followed.
Gotcha. You said you flew RC planes before?
From about 1981 until 1986, and the additional challenge of the mechanical stuff with the helicopters intrigued me, so I got that from my grandfather as far as liking to tinker and work on stuff. So it was a natural progression.
Okay, that's good.
Quick question. Your first time you went inverted, how did you feel? How far were you into flying? Was it like your first time seeing it and you did it, or you did it on accident? Like how did that?
Well, right when I started, people were still using the inverted flight switch, which basically made the model fly upside down exactly like it flew right side up, which is pretty much a disaster because If you hit the switch by accident, you instantly crash. That's always a nice incentive not to hit it. And there's always trying to transition between upright and inverted. None of the flying we do today with 3D would be remotely possible with a switch because there's no way you could toggle the switch on and off, on and off. So I tried that literally for like a month or two, but that was also the time when people were first starting to fly switchless inverted, which is all we do now anyway. Yeah. And then I started doing it that way. And I think I did it mostly by like a half a loop and coming out at the top and holding it for a while and then pulling out the bottom. Yeah.
Right.
So I did it actually kind of both ways. I started kind of in a interesting time when things were beginning to be easier, gyros and things of that nature, and kits were pretty decent. Yet you still had to have a pretty good skill set to build. You had to know how to dial, indicate, balance blades well, do all that kind of thing. So that was really valuable because I picked up all that skill set at that time that I still apply today.
But that inverted flight, though, you first did you notice that the characteristics of the helicopter flew differently than upside, the right side up, rather? Maybe the blades symmetrical, the foil, or was it flat?
Well, we were flying both kinds of blades. Yeah. Presumptively, when people, if you knew you were going to be flying inverted, you would use symmetrical blades. Gotcha. But no, I think it's actually, as it is for most people, you're kind of surprised it flies pretty normally inverted. It's fairly stable, and it actually, that the helicopter knows exactly what it's doing, and it's perfectly happy to be upside down. Your brain and you might be a little bit more concerned about it, but the model doesn't seem to care too much.
Yeah, that's cool.
Even back then, it was fine.
Yeah, good. So let's fast forward a little bit then. So you've learned how to fly. Did you do competition flying?
Yeah. Back in everybody has to understand is back in the 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, and so forth, even up to 2000, the predominant area of interest was precision flying. Nice. People went to the nationals, they went to regional and local events. Yeah. The nationals would have 25 people in a given class, AMA classes plus FAI. Yeah. So I was in that, and that's what I did and competed for 20 years, I guess.
Wow.
Just I guess the math would work out right.
Any of those contests you win? You win any of those?
I was Class 2 national champion, and this is AMA class, not F3, not at F3C, and I was Class 3 champion, I believe 3 times, not consecutive.
Okay. And I'm sure over that time you've seen kind of the evolution of precision flying, and whether it's the patterns changing or the technology of the models changing. How have that really affected how precision back then is to precision what it is today?
Yeah, the models have of course gotten better. It's interesting, the quality of models starting certainly late, getting close to 2000 and later, got really good. But the highest end models were Japanese. Some of the United States stuff was quite nice. Stuff made in the United States was quite nice as well. So the quality was actually really nice. Yeah. Did not fly as well as they do today because, of course, they were flybar models, or at least couldn't do aerobatics to the way we can do them now. They hovered pretty daggone well because a flybar system can be tuned extremely well to hover extremely well. Heading hold gyros was obviously a big milestone for performance, and initially there was a little bit of controversy about, are we going to allow heading hold gyros versus a traditional rate gyro? That was quickly dispensed within a matter of a year. No, this is not going to be something, you're not going to squelch the technology. That made no sense. And then you went from there to full flybarless systems, and that was the next major leap. And of course, then this power systems, because we went from having everybody flying nitro to almost in the blink of an eye, literally within a year or two, almost everybody transitioned into electric because it was smoother, so much more power, and everything about presentation, quiet, smooth, fit for competition flying, precision flying.
Yeah. Now switching over to electronic from nitro, sure changed the characteristic styles of flight too. So now there really wasn't that much concern on collective management. How did that change the ball game too, as far as precision flight, especially the aerobatic side of things?
Yeah, when nitro was the predominant power source in precision aerobatics, you pretty much, except when the 90 size motors finally became legal or were released and subsequently were allowed in competition. When 60 size motors were being used, we constantly almost had to have a modified motor, and they were always running as hard as they possibly could because the conditions were not ideal. Heavy tailwind, heavy crosswind. It was all you could do to get through maneuvers symmetrically. It wasn't a matter of getting through the maneuver, it was a matter of getting through the maneuver symmetrically balanced around and everything like that as per the rules requirement. When electrics came along, that now we had excess power that you could use judiciously to make the maneuvers look as good as possible. Even now though, sometimes when I'm judging, people get carried away with all that power, and a symmetrical maneuver, one side goes up twice as far as the other because you forget that you've got a 5 to 7 horsepower motor at your fingertip. So with great power comes more responsibility to manage it well.
Uncle Ben said it. Great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben, you get it? Go ahead. That's cool. Precision flying, FAI, F3C, AMA sportsmen around the world, right? We see many countries that partake in it. USA got some great pilots. Europeans are great. Japanese are great. Who do you think, is top dog in this area of precision flying right now? Which country kind of reigns supreme at the moment? To you?
Are you talking for F3C?
Yes, F3C flying.
Okay. Obviously, we've got some of the best pilots in the world living in the United States. Of course, Nick Maxwell is at the very top of the food chain as far as that is concerned. There are some Germans that are very good. The Japanese, though, tend to consistently come to the world stage with a formidable team. They just do. F3C is quite popular in Japan. They actually have regional events that ultimately select the pilots that can go to team trials and things like that. So they take it to another level. Their top pilot, Mr. Ito, nobody's really ever seen anything quite like him. There are a couple others that would come to mind. Curtis Youngblood, obviously, would be in that category from the United States, and a couple of Mr. Ito's predecessors. But they very consistently come to play, and they come to win.
Nice. Have you ever judged any of those guys?
The Japanese?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Oh, I might add, I said Germans, there are some European pilots. Mr. Graber, there are a couple that have traded world championships with the Japanese with Mr. Ito, or one that has traded world championship with Mr. Ito. But it's the Japanese.
Nice. Yeah, I kind of got into this precision flying and just knowing you guys, meeting some of the other guys. Gordy was great. Mike Gorza, Nick Maxwell, of course, and just learning the ins and outs of things and hearing that we're going to host nationals, or worlds rather, in 2023. I am super excited about that. I'm pretty sure you are. Are you? Will you be a judge in that, or?
No, we have. You don't just kind of volunteer to be a judge at the world level. You have to be qualified, having judged a significant number of competitions within your country.
Gotcha.
And it's important to have a judge from your own company. It's not because anybody's going to be biased, but it just ensures more consistency of scoring across the board when there is a mix of judges from the EU, perhaps one from Japan, United States, North America. It just makes things more uniform and consistent. So we have at least one qualified judge. I think Gordy is actually qualified, as a matter of fact. Sometimes who gets actually asked to judge is a function of how many registered pilots there are in the actual event.
Yeah.
So it's based on demand.
Cool. That's awesome, man. Well, I ain't gonna make it too much about F3C. I mean, I love talking about this stuff, especially with Ben. So, but one more question though. So bird style in competition, pod and boom or fuselage? Which one do you like?
A fuselage is always going to present better, do aerobatics better, and in certain wind conditions, because the wind flows around the body, it can be really good in hover. In the old days, I sometimes heard it said a fuselage can be good for an extra point or point and a half or so per maneuver because it presents. And I don't, that is a subjective comment.
Sure.
But you can see where it comes from because they're pretty, they flow well. Yeah. So, your loop might not be particularly round, but it sure looked pretty not being particularly round. But downside with fuselages are that if you're practicing 3-4 days a week, which you sort of need to do to be really good, there's wear and tear, and you can bounce a bad auto with a pod and boom model, and it doesn't have a lot of consequence. You pounce a bad auto with a fuselage model, and it might depress you a little bit.
Totally get it. Absolutely. Cool. Thanks for that. All right, let's take a step back then, and like I called you at the beginning, the community champion, and you also mentioned at the beginning too, you love to tinker. So I would say that that kind of plays into who we know Ben Miner is. He's very smart and meticulous about things, electronics, mechanics. How long have you truly been helping the community? Do people really reach out to you and you thought to yourself, man, I better learn this a little bit more because everyone's really starting to question me and I'm giving them the right answers, and so the word is spreading that, ask Ben Miner, he knows everything. How did that get started? Is you being the community leader and support for this stuff, man?
It's flattering for you to say that. I don't really think of myself like that. I mean, it's just kind of been just a progression. I mean, I don't put myself out there as being any kind of expert, and I take any answer I give really seriously, because if I make a mistake, it could cost somebody a model, or I take it seriously, because if I make a mistake, it could cost minimum money, and it could cost more if something goes wrong and something fails and somebody gets hurt. Yeah. So it's a hobby, but I take it seriously because if they're going to ask, I've got a responsibility to either answer correctly or find out from somebody who can tell me to tell them what to say. And occasionally I will make mistakes and get called out on it, but I try to be accurate when I tell somebody something.
That's awesome.
Let me jump in real quick.
Sure.
So Ben, literally I used to fly B-bar, and then I went over to Futaba, and the learning curve there is different for any radio system. You just got to learn its own language, its own vibe and energy. When I started to encounter some roadblocks with setting up my Futaba system, literally everyone was like, call Ben Miner, or they would say call Dr. Ben. And for a while, I thought there were 2 or 3 different people, because you didn't have one specific name for everyone, or everyone called you something different. So, and they say, "Oh, talk to Doc." I'm like, "Okay, Doc, okay." And I know this guy named Ben. Then someone said Dr. Minor. So I thought it was like 3 of you guys, and then to come to find out, it was just one, and that was pleasing because I was like, okay, now I don't have to talk to 3 people. I can talk to one person. So how did that happen? I mean, how literally did that happen to where the top pilots, I'm talking about Jason Bell, like a few other people, and sometimes even talking to Nick Maxwell, your name would come up and, he would say, hey, Ben would know that, or Ben knows. How did you get that label? I know people call you that. You didn't ask for it. But what in your actions led to this? If Ben can't figure it out, it can't be figured out. Because literally, that's what it is.
The only thing the name comes from is originally when the online forum Run Rider years ago, that was just the screen name I came up for. That's all it is. And it's just a play on the fact I'm a veterinarian. That's all that is. So
you are an official doctor, though?
I have a doctorate in veterinary medicine.
Right. So you went to school for this. You didn't make this up. It's just, it's official.
No, the doctor part had nothing about some presumptive knowledge about model helicopters. It was just a play. It was just something to do for a screen name. That's all.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we thank you for being that in the community, because you've saved my hide many times. Jason Bell, that I know of. There's a countless list of people that come to you for advice, or to solve problems that they can't figure out after they've read the manual, correct?
There's wisdom contained therein.
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry, I jumped in, Brian. Go ahead.
That was good, because when I first heard about you, Ben, it was, you're a superstar. And so, seriously, I'm starstruck. Like, okay, I'm going to reach out to him. Like, oh, just ping him. He'll talk to you, no problem. I'm like, are you sure? Like, yeah. So I ping him. And immediately I got a response back, like within 10 minutes. I love that. I was like, holy cow, this guy's like serious. He's right back on it. And so you helped me answer the first few problems. And then you're like, call me. Let's talk about it. I was like, oh my God, this guy wants to talk to me. So I called and we had like a 1-hour conversation on setups and stuff. And I was just, so floored by that. Very impressed by that. You're very active. You're quick to respond. As long as I can give you precisely what's wrong with my bird, you are able to help me out, even without saying that. We have a long distance relationship, and so it's just, it works. You get it. You figure it out while we're on the phone. You know what's wrong. It's like maybe a common problem that you've seen over and over again, and you have the answers for it. So I appreciate you for being there. And like I said, you're gonna always be the community champion for me, because you help everyone. And everyone sees it, and everyone who's going to watch this interview is going to attest to say, absolutely, Ben is the man.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate it.
Quick question. Why do you like Futaba?
It's a great question. Yeah. I guess I've flown as a team member for Futaba for basically, I think it was plus or minus, it was 25 or 26 years. There's always consistency of quality. It's not about being to the marketplace first with something. I take seriously the fact that I fly Futaba servo. I talked to a customer yesterday. He's got a set of Futaba BLS 272s in a model with well over 1,000 flights on the model, and the servos are fine.
Wow. Yeah.
So the servo might cost a little bit more, but 1,000 flights later, I think you probably got your money's worth.
Right.
I don't have to worry about my stuff working, because it works.
Yeah.
And the Japanese will, focus, who of course Futaba is a Japanese company, but first and foremost, if you're looking at like a flybarless system, the first thing that they're going to try to develop and evolve is, does that thing fly the best? Mm-hmm. So I like the fact that they kind of, and sometimes there may be what they may think is a design priority might differ from other people's, and that's fine. That's you're gonna have differences of opinion about what feature do you want now versus what feature do you want later. But ultimately, when I go to the field, for example, to fly my gyro, the first thing I care about and the most important thing on my mind is how well that thing flies. Yeah. It is less of a concern to me whether it took me 5 minutes to do one thing versus 10 minutes to do another. Mm-hmm. Because after that's done, I'm back to flying it. I have to fly that thing day in and day out, week after week, year after year. So I like the way they make sure that things fly well. Yeah. The integrity of the radio link is really good. I mean, this is a company that was delayed in the marketplace with when 2.4 gigahertz first came out, because, as they said, they were trying to make sure it was right, and they had vast experience in industrial radio control before they ever released product on the market for the modeling community. So I like the fact that footwork was done in the background without having to use the customer as guinea pig and a customer's model, because it doesn't do any good to say, oh yeah, we caught this problem, here's the second version, go buy this, when you've got a pile of rubble when you lost your $5,000 competition helicopter. Absolutely. Because of something that if they engineered it a little better, it probably wouldn't have happened. So they've never let me down. The companies never let me down as far as being good to me, being supportive of me, and helping me support customers.
Nice. Yeah.
So it's been a really good relationship, and it continues to be, and it's one I value highly. As far as the current iteration of the Futaba flybarless system, that credit goes to Nick Maxwell working with Japan.
Gotcha.
To do that. There was a period of time when the early versions of the CGY 750, which was a gyro that came before the current CGY 760. Yeah, I did get various versions of firmware over a period of months and months, testing, trying to solve very simple and fundamental issues. So I had worked some with them, but none of the hardcore engineering that has gone between what has happened in Japan and with the ultimate maturing of the product when Nick got in on it as well.
Gotcha. Cool. Very good. Yeah, I mean, I started flying Futaba last year as well, and it was a pretty big learning curve from the prior system I used. But you're right, you mentioned something about, being able to set up a model in 5 minutes versus 15 minutes, and it's right over here versus you just throwing something together and you have no idea what it's all about. So I do respect the fact that it is such a detailed piece of software. Every little minute setting that's in that thing, all the way down to each individual servo, mechanics in the bird. I mean, it's a lot to learn, but I appreciate it a lot. Now that I fly precision flying, I know some areas that I can tune to make my flying even better. So
yeah, I don't think anybody should be off-put. If we speak of the 760, the default settings work for practically every model out there.
Sure, absolutely.
With precious little or no adjustment. Mm-hmm. The thing that makes the 760 such a powerful system is that if you can tune it pretty much perfectly for every single flying style that exists. Yeah. And that is where a 760 shines above other systems in the ability to do that. because there are no compromises. That doesn't mean it has to be hard for a sport pilot to set up, because it's not. The defaults work great. But if you want to fly F3C, if you've got a 50-pound scale model with really unique rotor blades, that system in the software ready to go, that's what you need to do to make that model fly perfectly. And that is incredibly valuable to me, because I've got a system that no matter what customer comes to me needing help, I've got the tools to try to make that model fly well.
Nice.
That's really cool.
Cool. Very cool. Well, let's talk about the current day of what Mr. Ben Miner likes to fly. So you fly the field, correct? Today?
Today,
Yeah.
it depends on how much running around I'll be doing, wrenching on stuff.
Well, just in general.
Oh, what do I fly?
Yeah, what do you fly the field? Yeah.
I have a bit of a taste for German helicopters.
Okay.
I have a good working relationship with Chuck Bird at Peak Aircraft, and I fly mini copters. I've got
nice.
a new Diablo 700 SE underway right now.
Nice.
And I've got I have a Henslet TDSF, which is kind of a boutique 5-pound 700 class model that is kind of engineering art.
Yeah.
But with some history with flying competition and F3C, really super high precision models, I can recognize quality, and I appreciate quality.
Yeah.
It's all like it.
Yeah.
But let's be frank, there's not a bad helicopter on the market now. They're all really good.
Yeah.
So whatever you want to fly, have at it.
Absolutely. And that was going to lead me into kind of, the future of RC helicopters. We've seen the evolution over the years of the helicopters. You see what they are today. How do you see them tomorrow and beyond?
Well, I think with the RC helicopter hobby, it's what you might term mature.
Yeah.
So you don't like flybarless gyros, even solid state gyros. You don't now every year see some incredible milestone like we necessarily used to. But there's still incremental improvements in reliability. Models these days can go hundreds and hundreds of flights with very basic routine maintenance and never have a failure. In the old days, that was never the case. And they really don't wear very much either. They stay tight and nice. I think when I was driving up here, we've got a little bit of a wild card with what's going to happen with FAA as far as remote ID and how that's going to affect what we do. That's under the blanket, not just of model helicopters, but model aviation.
Yeah.
I think software continues to be improved so that models fly better and better with less need for unique tuning. Batteries, of course, are kind of incrementally improved. I think everybody's kind of waiting for that next really big thing with batteries. Speed controls are working well, motors are working well. Nitro motors run very well. Fuel's gotten a little bit challenging in cost. But it's not, right now, you don't see these super big changes every year. It's just every little bit is a little bit of improvement, and over the course of several years you look back and go, well, things are still getting a lot better. So I don't think it's going to stop getting better. It's just right now it's not these super big leaps, it's little incremental improvements.
Yeah. For folks coming into the hobby, we've seen I guess a lot of new styles of birds, RTFs, right? Out the box, come with the radio, you go.
We're
ready to fly.
200
size, 300 size.
Already, I didn't understand. Okay.
200 size, 300 size helicopters, come with the transmitter. You take them out the box, some light tuning, and pow, you're up in the sky flying. But sometimes I feel like that might be a crutch. I mean, it's holy cow, I crashed it. How do I rebuild it? How do I get parts for it? You think the experience of building a kit to flight versus ready to fly would benefit new pilots coming into it? Would it frustrate them to say, God, this is already hard enough to fly? Why do I want to go through this whole process of building,
I don't think there's any problem with starting with more of a ready-to-fly approach, because it does avoid what you said. I call it drinking from a fire hose. I've got to learn how to do all the flying stuff, and also I've got to pick up a building skill set.
Gotcha.
But after that, there is benefit and value to building a kit, and you're going to need to do it anyway, because any of your more advanced and high performance models are going to come as a kit typically anyway. And then you do need to know how to do that so that you can know how to fix it, work on it, troubleshoot it. So I think the two can coexist quite well.
Okay, that's good.
I don't think that's a problem.
Quick question. Oh, you have one?
Go ahead.
So Brian is new to Contronic. I am brand new to Contronic. I've of course we know about the name. We know about what they do, what they produce. I was talking to Tim. How do you say his last name? DePerry. Yeah. So I was talking to Tim, and we were having a conversation about a lot of the 3D guys are starting to also kind of use the Contronic system, motor and ESC. And for a while, it's kind of like looked at as if you are running the all-Contronic system, it's probably your precision flyer, and you're not demanding too much of the system. So I saw a guy, Jason Blaylock, he was running the Contronic system, and I was like, oh boy, okay, so it's 3D now. And I saw another guy, and it's funny, once you start to see this, you kind of see him pop up more and more in different places. So I had the privilege of talking to Tim. We just we didn't release it yet because it's not actually here in the States, but we've been advertising and ordered kits of the XL Nimbus. I put the kit together, and I got the Calibre. How do you say it? Calibre. I got the 140 LVI. Right. It's said different ways depending upon who you ask and what part of the country.
Calibre is German for hummingbird.
Yep.
Yes, Calibre is.
That's your fun fact.
Fun fact for today from Dr. Ben. So you kind of said, hey man, be careful. This little motor is a monster. The ESC paired with this is the dream setup. So immediately first I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. I got you. He likes Contronic. I installed the motor, and I installed the ESC, set it up, gear mesh correct, gear ratio, all that stuff. I started to hover it on the maiden flight, and then I kind of go in the head, idle up one. Now, this model, some people will say 2700s to 550 size might be too much. It felt nice on it, but holy cow, the first collective punch out, was monstrous. I mean, it exploded into the air, not in pieces, but it stayed in one piece, but it was in the clouds in 2 seconds. And I immediately hit you up and said, Dr. Ben, I wasn't ready. Now, I've had plenty of 550s before, but this combination, and I had one of the pilots, Steven Saran fly it, put a nice, pretty decent, 3D flight on it. I mean, TikToks, barrel flips, pitch pumps, all that stuff. We landed it, and the motor was not even warm. It was almost like someone put it in the refrigerator for a second, and then took it out, and we were like, okay. But the system gave immense amount of power. I'm sure I didn't check the log on it, but I'm sure I didn't even go near its capacity at all. And paired with the motor, it was like the dream team. So now I'm kind of, I'm not going to say I'm going to run Contronic and everything, but that's definitely going to be my first choice if I can get my hands on it, or if it's in stock or something like that. You two fly Contronic. I'm assuming it's for the same reasons. But what shines about Contronic to you? What is the thing that goes, okay, I choose this?
Yeah, my relationship with Contronic dates back to about 2009. I had was flying another brand at the time that was having some pretty significant engineering challenges, some of which were somewhat dramatic and arguably risky to the overall health of the model, shall we say. So at that time, Danny Melnick, who owns Aero Panda down in Florida, said, Ben, you really need to look at Contronic because it's what you're looking for as far as quality and reliability. And that was certainly the case. It was a completely different world. My mind was pretty much blown, kind of like yours was the first time I was competing at that time. So between the way the governor worked and everything. So it was a first quality German product, engineering in-house, built in-house, wasn't farmed out all over the world from components from who knows where. So fast forward, this is, a lot of my modeling timeline I'm pretty good on, but somewhere in the late teens, 20 teens, something or another, I was asked to be a member of the Contronic team, which was just a natural progression. I was already flying their stuff, and regardless of whether I was on a team or not, this was what I was going to fly. I might add that applies to radio control system as well. So I continued to fly them then. And then a little over 2 years ago, the North American product development manager for Contronic, who was Tim DePerry, who we previously mentioned, asked me to become the North American service agent for them. So I do motor repairs, and I do speed control tech support. Speed control service is still typically done in Germany. But the engineering is just exhaustive in attention to detail, and they almost sometimes to the point, it's like when, but they don't release anything until it works. It just works. The governor is legendary, and the standard to which others are compared, the way they handle partial speed settings with active freewheeling. These are concepts that were, if not originated by Contronic, were one of the very first companies to put into their product line. But I mean, I've got customers that just have speed controls with way over 1,000 flights on them, and they just keep going. My own, they just work and work and work and work. The motors are efficient, they run cool, they are structural, they have good structural integrity. So it's a product that I don't sell them, but it's a product that I can recommend because I know that nobody's going to come back on me and go, why did you recommend this thing?
Yeah.
Nice. A question about the motors, especially the pyro line. What's the difference between a normal and a competition at the same grade?
Okay.
Yeah.
So the competition motors versus the regular pyro motors, they're physically the same size.
Yeah.
There's some different coloring and anodizing and things like that, but the principal difference is the diameter of the winding wire.
Okay.
All the competition motors, I'll make sure I'm accurate on this. I'm pretty sure I am. All the competition motors are hand wound.
Oh wow. Okay.
And they don't make a subtle amount more power. It's noticeable. You can see it and feel it in flight, and you can feel it too physically, because if you push them that much harder still, they will stay that much cooler still.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you hold any of the competition motors, a standard in one hand and a competition in the other, they're physically the same size.
Yeah.
But if you peer down in there, you see winding that's as big around as your arm because and their motors use large diameter wire anyway, but the comp winding is bigger still.
Yeah, it's a great product. I love flying Contronic. I have it in both my birds now. May purchase a third bird, ready to put more Contronic systems in it too, the ESC and motor, and yeah, it hasn't failed me yet. So yeah, Contronic is definitely top notch for me. Yep. Cool. All right. Well, that's about it for me. Questions? Any other great statements or comments you'd like to make as it pertains to Dr. Ben Miner?
I don't think I have anything profound to say. I'm just very flattered and humbled that you asked me to do this interview. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sitting with us. Thank you so
much. It's been my pleasure.
Okay, anything from you, Sean?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Well, guys, we're wrapping up another HACtv pilot showcase. Again, Dr. Ben Miner, thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to flying with you at the field, my friend. Thank you so much.
Look forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Cool.
And cut.